Alright, here we go. Alright, hey guys. My name's Quinn Cross. I did my KINE 450 project on team sports and their mental health benefits for adolescents. So my research idea was there needs to be more information and research done on mental health benefits for youth and adolescents and their sports participation. And I wanted to look into things like self-esteem, initiative, depressive thoughts, and suicidal thoughts. So a little bit of background. There are 21.5 million children in America between the ages of 6 and 17, which I consider adolescents, playing sports. There's clear-cut physical benefits from these sports. Like there's all this Play 60 stuff. It's all about physical benefits. Get out there, play 60 minutes a day, and you get like lower blood pressure, stronger heart, stronger bones, and many other physical benefits. There's not really that much data for mental health benefits, though. And I find this really important because, I mean, you can be as strong as you want, but mental health is very important to overall health. And parents should know how to best help their kids become the best adults they can be. Because as what we learn as children just transcends right into adult life. So a little previous research done on this. Donaldson and Ronan in 2006 took 203 young adolescents. They assessed them on 3 different assessments, and they're all taken in a classroom setting. The authors used descriptive statistics to analyze these results, and the studies showed at the end of their test, the study showed that increase in sport participation can lead to increased self-esteem. Another study by Holt, Tink, Mendingo, and Fox took 12 high school soccer players from grades 10 to 12. The study was conducted the entire soccer season. The researchers stated that 9 out of 12 players had attitudes and or behaviors consistent with the concept of initiative. And that big emphasis from this study was that the skill was not learned exactly from the sport itself, but the environment of sports instead. And the last study was a study of 739 middle to high school students to test the link behind sport participation and suicidal thoughts or depression. The big takeaway point of this is those who participated had lower odds of suicide. But the biggest takeaway point is that students that played sports in middle school and stopped in high school had higher scores for depressive thoughts and or suicidal thoughts compared to those who didn't play sports at all. And I thought that was very interesting. So my hypothesis, I'm expecting there to be a positive relationship between the number of years of youth sport participation and then the levels of self-esteem, initiative. And then my problem statement is I'm going to conduct a survey, which I'll get into later, in the Northern Virginia area of high school students. And I'll be assessing them on factors like self-esteem, initiative, depressive thoughts, suicidal thoughts, and along with gathering data on gender, the years participated, what sports they played. And the main goal of my survey is to see if there's a positive correlation between sport participation and these mental health benefits. And at the end I'll be able to compare genders and those who didn't play and those who did play and the high schools themselves. The way my sample group, the people I'm sampling is both male and female, the whole high school, grades 9 through 12. I selected 5 high schools from the Northern Virginia area. I'm accepting any fitness level, any sport, any height, any weight, and any ethnicity. The only people that will not be included in my study is anyone with a disability preventing them from playing a sport, and anyone who does not have their participation form signed, which you will see later. The number of participants, it's pretty evenly distributed from high schools. It's about 2,000 students from each of the 5 high schools, totaling about 10,000 students. Uh, I'll expect it to probably lose about 500 to 1,000 students through not the survey or absentees or certain things like that. So the exact study design, like I said, it's a survey. The permission slip will be sent out 2 weeks in advance to all the students. There's the components of the survey are which sport they participate in, self-esteem, initiative, depression, and coaches' knowledge and ability of the sport. It's going to be given between May 1st and May 5th, and the data will just be collected one time from each of the 5 schools. The survey itself is 50 questions containing certain sections such as background information, questions regarding the sport itself, mental health, and their coaches, obviously. The questions are a mixture of questions compiling of both quantitative and qualitative data. There's yes and no questions. There's 5-point scale questions, 1 being the worst, 5 being the best. There's Likert scale questions, so strongly agree, strongly disagree, and everything in between. And then there's a couple short answer for the important questions that I want people to really pay attention to. I really try to make my survey the perfect length, because if you make a survey too long, then these kids are just going to get bored and fill in any random answer. You're not going to get good data. And if it's too short, then you're obviously not going to have enough questions, and you're not going to have enough information on what you need. So how I accounted for the validity and reliability. Validity, the biggest issue is obviously self-reported data, and especially self-reported data from adolescents. This is a really hard thing to combat. There's no real way around it. When taking a survey, it's always going to be self-reported. Hopefully a larger sample size is going to help that. I looked at a lot of surveys, and it seemed the best way to combat this self-reported data is just take a larger sample size. So like research like Hansen, Lorson, Dorkin all argued that it's still very valuable data, even though it's self-reported. And then I'm going to use convergent validity, just meaning that I'm going to compare my data to other tests similar to this and their data. And if we get similar data from similar tests, then the validity of my survey will be good. To combat the reliability of my test, I looked at reliability alpha scores from other surveys in this specific field, and I kind of took questions or used the same idea of a question from studies with good reliability scores. And towards the end, obviously I'll conduct my own alpha reliability test after my data is collected and analyzed. But that's later on. Data collection, so exactly how my survey will be administered. During the first class period, the proctor will explain the survey in pretty good detail and explaining the importance. Students will spend roughly 20 to 30 minutes taking the survey. And then all the surveys will be put into a folder and given back to the proctor to be delivered back to the researchers. And then all these surveys are, of course, anonymous. So hopefully that'll give us some better data. The data analysis, I'm going to use computer software to compute the outliers and also eliminate any surveys that didn't answer a question that I have written in my survey, asking if the student is paying attention. And if they don't answer that correct question, then obviously we know the student is just flying through the survey and not paying attention, and that survey will be thrown out. Through the computer data analysis, we're going to compute range, mean, standard deviation values for both self-esteem and initiative. And then I'm going to compare the mean and standard deviation of those who participate in sports and those who don't. I'm going to create graphs and charts to get a visual for the data as long as strictly numbers. And then I'm going to run an independent t-test. So that just means the two groups of participating in sports and don't participate in sports to see if their means are significantly different. What I'm going to hopefully support my hypothesis. My hypothesis will be supported if the mean score from the group who participates in sports is better than the mean score from those who don't participate in the sports. If the participation in sport group standard deviation is lower, we want a lower standard deviation. So that would also support my hypothesis. And if the graphs and charts show positive correlation between the years participated in any team sport with better self-esteem and initiative scores. The null hypothesis would occur if there is no difference between the two groups, or if there's negative correlation or no correlation at all between the years participated and better self-esteem or initiative scores. I'm going to set my alpha level at 0.05, which has been proven appropriate for levels of health and human performance field. And then the null will be rejected if significance level is less than that 0.05. And like I said, I'll use correlation coefficient for both initiative and self-esteem, expecting to see a positive correlation, meaning my hypothesis is correct. Obviously, then there's a need for more research. I believe this study will help us better understand the mental health benefits from adolescents' participation in team sports, but we can always use more research. There's always a call for more research. And that's about it. And then I just have some slides with my references. Thank you for listening. Have a good one.